Ronda, first off, I kind of spoiled one of the bits of news, but well, let's get to it then. Ronda Rousey returned on SmackDown last night and sided with Shayna Baszler, as Shayna Baszler was having an in-ring confrontation with Natalya, and Ronda has been missing since the end of last year when she lost the SmackDown Women's Championship to Charlotte. But her returning with and continuing her association with Shayna Baszler, points to the rumor that Shayna and Ronda will be challenging Damage Control at WrestleMania for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, which would be a big deal for the women's tag titles and also for Shayna Baszler, who has really been floundering, for lack of a better word, since coming to the main roster. So an association with Ronda Rousey for Shayna would do nothing but help the Queen of Spades. What I was going to say was that also we got an update on Battle in the Valley, and the show in Osaka took place, so we're going to have a bit of spoilers, but we will get there at some point a little bit later. We also have and the preview for NWA Nuff Said later tonight, where Tyrus and Matt Cardona will collide for Sweet Charlotte, though that 10 pounds of gold, the NWA World title, the title that I have said ad nauseum over the last couple of months that Matt Cardona never lost. But we will get there as a preview. We will get to the preview a little bit later, but as far as building intensity, building interest, and building crazy excitement, the raw emotion that was tied to Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman's promo on Raw, and the fact that Cody mentioned his dad and talked about how, the respect that he has for Paul Heyman, the amount that it helped his dad working for ECW back in the day when Paul brought him into ECW and paid him well. The fact that the money had dried up and that that hard times was not just a promo. It was a more than a positive reaction, and it made a WrestleMania main event personal. That it made what some people think of as a manufactured main event a personal thing. And that there are some people that say that Paul did not know that Cody was going to mention his dad. And that I have never seen Paul Heyman cry. Never. I have never seen Paul Heyman cry. But Paul Heyman teared up and welled up during the promo because of how much Dusty meant to him and how much what Cody said meant to Paul. And the more that I talk about the promo, I'm gonna end up welling up, because if there's anybody I look at as an idol, if there's anybody I look at as somebody that I would strive to be like and have that intensity and that interest and that just love for what I do, that's what Dusty inspired. Yeah, Dusty's an inspiration. Dusty's an inspiration. He inspired a generation. And I'm sure I will talk about this in some form or fashion, probably when we talk about WrestleMania, which will come down, a little bit later. I may do a predictions before we get to the actual, set matches for the event, but we'll talk about that down the road. Either way, we got another thing to talk about. We got more to talk about from SmackDown last night, as Madcap Moss, yes, Madcap Moss actually is number one contender for Gunther, the Intercontinental Champion, next week, as Madcap Moss won a Fatal 4-Way, including Rey Mysterio, Karrion Kross, and Santos Escobar last night on SmackDown. And I, for one, will admit and say I didn't expect Madcap Moss to win. I expected anybody but Madcap Moss to win. The fact of the matter is, I know Rey Mysterio just fought Gunther late last year, and it's still odd for WWE to present heel versus heel, which would have been the case with Santos Escobar and Karrion Kross, but it's also the likelihood that they don't have a problem with having Madcap Moss put in a strong effort against Gunther, but come up short. But they have a problem with Karrion Kross or Santos Escobar, especially with Santos Escobar still being relatively new on the main roster, that they don't want him to lose to Gunther. You know, they don't want. I think it might be that they don't want to exercise that match right now. They would rather save that match and exercise that match down the road because of the fact that they see Santos Escobar as somebody who they can build up for the future, and that they don't want to, like, lose that money match that they could have down the road when they build up Santos Escobar a little bit more. But props to Madcap Moss for becoming #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship next week on Smackdown. But also in what is and what was a goosebump-inducing moment where Jey Uso returned to side with his brother and show his loyalty to his brother to defend the SmackDown Tag Team titles against Braun Strowman and Ricochet. And Jey basically was asked where he stands with the Bloodline, and Jey said he's loyal to his brother, and that was it. And then later in the show, we saw him fist bump Sami Zayn after Sami acknowledged Jey. He acknowledged Jey in the moment, and that just, it's like I've said, there's no other way to describe it other than the fact that this story, the Bloodline, was built for Hollywood, and there's got to be something big planned for the rest of the Bloodline at WrestleMania, because it's a story built for Hollywood. But now we move to the spoilers, so if you want to leave after that, feel free, and I will see you in the next video. But if you want to hang out for a minute, there's spoilers from Osaka, as New Japan has a World Championship match planned for February the 18th, Battle in the Valley, as Kazuchika Okada laid down the challenge at the end of the show in Osaka to an old rival. You still here? To an old rival, Hiroshi Tanahashi. So what was in question as far as who would be challenging for the IWGP Championship, Kazuchika Okada defeated Shingo Takagi earlier today, and then proceeded to challenge his longtime rival, who was at ringside, to a match at Battle in the Valley for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And that means that Tanahashi and Okada will collide for the world title. Kairi and Mercedes Moné for the Women's Championship. Fred Rosser and Kenta for the Strong Openweight title. Motor City Machine Guns will defend the Strong Tag Team Championships against the World Class Wrecking Crew. Zack Sabre Jr. against Clark Connors. Eddie Kingston against Jay White. Filthy Tom Lawler against Homicide in a Filthy Rules match. Mascara Dorada, Josh Alexander, Adrian Quest, and Rocky Romero in an 8-man tag team match against Kushida, Kevin Knight, Voladero Jr., and the DKC, and David Finlay and Bobby Fish, as well as J.R. Kratos and Alex Coughlin, will fill up the pre-show in what will be a spectacular card on February the 18th, Battle in the Valley. But also, Jay White came up short against Hikuleo in the Loser Leaves Japan match earlier today in Osaka. I don't know if this means that Jay White is done with New Japan, but I would point out that this show on February the 18th is not in Japan. It is in America. It is in San Jose, California. So this might be an exception, as Jay White lost a Loser Leaves Japan match and not a Loser Leaves New Japan. So I mean, I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks what that actually means and if Jay White is actually done with NJPW or he will just be competing and helping build the brand of New Japan in America as opposed to being one of the, like maybe he'll be the ace of New Japan's American branch and not allowed in Japan anymore. But either way, Jay White came up short against Hikuleo, and Kazuchika Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi will tear their house down once again at Battle in the Valley on February the 18th, which I will be also doing a preview for alongside the Elimination Chamber. With that being said, though, I will see you in the next video, which will be a preview for NWA. Enough said. Enough said.